So did you hear the one about Milton and Shakespeare? So Milton and Shakespeare go to a dinner party, and during the dinner party, all Milton does is talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. That's what he does, loudest voice. Very interesting. And Shakespeare just sits silently at the table. But at the end of the evening, as some of the women are leaving, they ask the host, "Who is that cute guy sitting in the corner?" That's Shakespeare. I'm teaching Shakespeare now, which is exciting. I'm actually teaching and this is what I want to talk about today, is the relationship between mourning and speech and what it means today on Holocaust Remembrance Day to remember. So, the play Hamlet by Shakespeare is, well, it's a very simply a revenge story. Um, Shakespeare models it after a revenge story, but the problem with Hamlet is that he never gets around to revenge. He delays and delays. And as the play kind of gathers steam and we know we're getting to this inevitable end, which just doesn't end, I do recommend the Hamlet Death Clock, which has a lot of entries in it, and it gives you where on the various where in the various time frame the different deaths occur. Um, the characters in the play will often speak about their inability to deal with the tragedy. Hamlet, as he's dying, says to his friend Horatio, who has always shown himself inadequate to understand what Hamlet is saying. Hamlet says to Horatio at the very beginning of the play, "There is more to heaven and earth, my dear Horatio, than is dreamt of in your philosophy." Horatio for Shakespeare he's the university man. He's the guy who knows everything, but it turns out that he really doesn't. He can't even grasp what he's seen, and nobody can. They look from the English ambassador comes and sees the dismal sight, and somebody says, "Ye who look pale and tremble at this sight." There's something that happens in Hamlet that it's unspeakable. It's the tragedy can't be captured, and it starts with the murder of Hamlet's father, what generates the whole story. The death of Hamlet's father at the beginning of the play, Hamlet is visited by the ghost of his father. The father says to Hamlet, "Remember me." And Shakespeare's Hamlet is an exercise, an attempt at memory. Nothing works. So here again, let's just look at what Hamlet says to Horatio. "I am dead, Horatio. Wretched queen," his mother, "adieu. You that look pale and tremble at this chance, that are but mutes or audience to this act. Had I but time, as this fell sergeant Death is strict in his arrest. Oh, I could tell you." There's the Shakespearean, it's in King Lear a lot. "Oh, the nothingness at the center of everything. Oh, I could tell you, but let it be. Horatio, I am dead. Thou livest, report me and my cause aright to the unsatisfied." What does Hamlet ask Horatio to do? It's something that he can't do. And Horatio right away will say, "I don't want to do this. You're dead. I'm going to kill myself." And Horatio says, and Hamlet says, "No, no. You are one of the survivors. And as one of the survivors, you have an obligation to tell. You have an obligation to speak. And this is the thing about Hamlet, and the reason it is the central text in the Western literary tradition, because it starts off by saying there is an unspeakable, unknowable catastrophe and tragedy at the very root of human experience, and it can't be described. I mean, except it endless, and but Hamlet is, and every production of Hamlet and every mention of Hamlet that you see a billion times a day that you don't even recognize anymore that come from Hamlet, that's a performance. Again, Shakespeare, by the way, played the role of Hamlet's father. And Shakespeare calls out in the role of the father, remember me, remember. So Hamlet, which is the greatest play of monotheism. I know people would argue about that. Um, Most people think Hamlet is a cynical, existential, I mean, as it seems to be, nothing. Um, Hamlet's redemption comes in understanding that he is part of a story over which he does not have full control. He starts out in the play kind of wresting control from all of his opponents. He kills a lot of them. I mean, he's kind of building himself up to get to the position of revenge. And then he withdraws and he says, there is special providence in the fall of a sparrow. Special providence. The smallest thing falls out of the sky. There's still that special providence. And that's Hamlet's redemption. He can't tell the story. It's like the people that Daniel Feldman and I were discussing. Daniel was explaining that in the Warsaw Ghetto, there was this incredible production of writing, and they stored the writing in milk cans, and they were found by accident. And they're still going through all these different remnants of this period of, in the Warsaw Ghetto, they knew they were going to die. They're a little bit like Hamlet, right? They knew they were going to die. So they said, somebody else tell our story. So that's why we remember. I remember in particular my great grandparents who perished in the Holocaust. They were murdered. It's not clear whether they were murdered by Nazis or Russians or somebody else, but the whole town was destroyed, Govorovo. 7 of their children were murdered with them. Um, if somebody asked me if I'm a survivor, because every day is Holocaust Remembrance Day. I shared this with somebody today. I said every day is Holocaust Remembrance Day, and I think it for me is this personal connection and knowing, even though I'm not the child of a survivor, trauma is intergenerational. The trauma of my generation was that we didn't know we were traumatized. We were so privileged. And now it's coming back. So, and it all comes back. And we are like Horatio. And Horatio is every man, every person. He has such limitations, but he's still obligated to tell the story and to remember.